In a different place, Dabo Swinney says he could be the best transfer portal recruiter ever.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On this episode, we're going to be talking with a couple more ACC football players here at the ACC Kickoff. Elijah Roberts, defensive lineman from SMU, former Miami Hurricanes, so I know Elijah a little bit, and Nate Yarnell, the quarterback from Pitt. We're also going to have a Duke football preview. Was able to hook up with J.J. Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils here at ACC Media Days, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. It was Clemson Day and North Carolina State Wolfpack Day today. As you can imagine, Dabo Swinney drew quite a crowd today, and he had some comments that had people talking. So this is what Dabo said on the transfer portal, because obviously, Kenton, people point to the fact that Clemson this year has taken 0 transfers. In fact, since the transfer portal became a thing, Clemson has only taken in 2 transfers. So Dabo Swinney doesn't exactly use that. He said, quote, "If I took another job tomorrow, I'd be the greatest portal recruiter ever because I'd have to replace half my roster." He said that because of the Clemson Tigers' stability and their retention rate of star players, they don't have to consider or use the portal as much. So basically, Kenton, if I understood correctly Dabo's comments, like, he's not saying he doesn't believe in the transfer portal, but in the case of Clemson, they haven't needed it because their roster's so darn good and their player development is so darn good.
I get him. And I actually do believe that he's right in terms of if he wanted to, he would be one of the greatest transfer portal coaches out there. I agree with him on that. But, brother, get your heels out of the ground. Take the spikes off. There's no reason that this is the hill you need to die on. Respectfully, be better in the portal. Go decide to be better. You have the capability. I have no doubt in my mind Dabo could be better. I have no doubt in my mind. You look at how he's recruited high school players. I have no doubt in my mind he could be better in the portal if he so chose to. And I think that that's a much worse indictment than him saying, "I'm giving it everything I got. Folks just don't like Clemson." That's much worse because it means you have the ability to be better. You have the ability to land a Quinshon Judkins type of guy. Because with all due respect, I don't think that your backfield is that great that you couldn't use a guy like him. You have the ability to go out and potentially land a Cam Ward. Because with all due respect to Cade Klubnik, I don't think he's that good to where I could say there has not been a quarterback in the portal yet that I could imagine would be better than him. And you just choose not to. That is not smart. This is worse than, hey, I'm trying my hardest. I'm coming close, but I'm just never sealing the deal. I could live with that. As a fan, if I were a fan of Clemson, I could live with that much better than I could live with. I'm just not doing it. It is what it is. What about it?
Yeah, no, it's tough because, again, like, Kenton, you know my opinion on this. I think Dabo Swinney, he's dug himself into this trench, and part of it, he's kind of a mad genius with it because I think he's tried to turn this into a big-time recruiting tool that, hey, if you come to Clemson, we're going to focus on developing you. We're not going to give up on you. We're not going to recruit over you in the transfer portal. So he has dug himself into that very, very deep trench, but obviously, the problem with it is no matter how good your development is, no matter how good you think your scouting department is, sometimes you're going to miss on recruits that don't turn out to be what you thought they were coming out of high school. And then sometimes maybe a player doesn't take to your development as good as that might be. So I think the transfer portal, it's like a cheat code that every other coach in major college football is using except for this one. So it's a powerful recruiting tool because, again, if you commit to Clemson out of high school, you know they're not going to replace you through the transfer portal. But at the same time, it puts the coach at a disadvantage.
I look at it like this. It's like taking supplements as a player, right? And I'm not talking about anything banned. I'm not talking about anabolic steroids or anything like that, but I'm talking about like creatine and things along those lines, or creatine, however you pronounce it, whatever the case is. It's like, hey, you can choose not to do it. You can choose to say, hey, I want to keep my body pure. That's just not something that I want, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And that's fine. Not saying that you're wrong at all for doing that, but please know, if you are not compensating or overcompensating for that lack, players who are doing it are going to be ahead of you. If you are not using, hey, I could use state-of-the-art facilities at place X, Y, and Z to train, but I like my high school more. Okay, if you are going to do that, if you are going to stay in that lane, you have to know that you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Okay, that's just what it is.
The other thing that Dabo spoke about and spoke against today is the new scholarship limit that's coming, where they're increasing it from 85 to 105. And I respect his opinion on this, and I'd love your take on it, Kenton, as a former Power 4 athlete, a former NC State football player. Because from where I sit as a fan, I'm saying, okay, 105 scholarships. This is going to give, opportunities for 20 additional players to get their education paid for, to get all those benefits that come with scholarships. Dabo is very much against it, though. He says the crazy thing is there's not many coaches that want 105 scholarships. We want to keep our walk-ons, he said. It's hard to manage that many guys. And when you have that many guys on scholarship, you think you've got transfers. Now, you wait till the number gets there, it's going to change a lot of things. So I guess I look at it as 20 extra scholarships is 20 extra opportunities to get scholarships. Dabo looks at it as 20 fewer opportunities for walk-ons to fulfill their dreams. How do you feel about that?
Okay, hear me out. You like your walk-ons? I hear you, Dabo. Here's an idea. You can, much like you're doing with the portal, making an intentional choice to not use things in a certain way, you cannot use those scholarships in the exact same way. You can say, hey, these 20 are reserved for the top 20 walk-ons on this team, to guys to walk onto this team, period. If you're one of the top 20 walk-ons, you'll end up in the 105. If you're not, you won't. That's just what it is. Sorry to tell you, tough titty said the kitty when the milk went dry. But you don't have to change what you do wholesale just because they're there and available, right? It's the old adage of, just because somebody gives you or just because you get a large lump sum of money doesn't mean it should burn a hole in your pocket. It's the same thing here. If you personally, if a large swath of coaches, if all these coaches don't want more scholarship players, they want their walk-ons, good. Now you just made your walk-ons' lives easier. What's the problem? I don't understand. Dabo is, I love the fact that he is who he is in so many ways, but he is also so frustrating at the same time because he complains about everything. And it's just like, please, dude, give it a rest already.
And he's, despite all of this stuff that we criticize him for, he's a darn good football coach.
Yeah, one of the best there ever been. He's
proven that. And that's why, Kenton, I'm so anxious to see how Clemson performs this year, because last couple of years they've been on a bit of a dip. So was that the valley and they start to head towards that peak this year, or will they continue to dip this season? Because, if you go talk to different people who predicted how the ACC is going to finish this year, you could see people predicting Clemson anywhere from first to fourth or fifth. So, folks agree they're going to be in the upper half, in the upper echelon of the conference, but a lot of people think that dip is going to continue. So definitely some pressure on Clemson this year. Maybe not so much pressure on the Duke Blue Devils, but they do have a new head coach, got a lot of new faces. They've got a new quarterback, Maalik Murphy, who was here for ACC Media Days. Manny Diaz, their new head coach. Going to sit down with J.J. Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils and preview Duke's upcoming football season and what the expectations are in Durham. We're also going to hear from SMU defensive lineman Elijah Roberts and starting Pitt quarterback Nate Yarnell a little bit later on in this episode. So, my friends, we're only getting started. You want to keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. And we're only getting started on the Game Time app. This is the only ticket app that Kenton and I use because they take the pressure out of buying last-minute tickets because you know you're going to get the best prices right up to the start of the event. Sometimes even an hour after the event already started, you're getting amazing deals on the Game Time app. And Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices in the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Folks, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. I've bought musical theater tickets on Game Time. I bought soccer tickets. I bought NHL Stanley Cup playoff tickets on there. Got amazing deals right before the event. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your second listen, make sure you check out Kenton and Grayson on Locked On Wolfpack. They do an awesome job. Check me out at Locked On Canes. Make us your second listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now, you can also make Locked On Blue Devils your second listen today. Let's sit down with the man himself, JJ Jackson, for a Duke football preview. Here at ACC Kickoff Media Days with JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. It's nice to connect with you in person first and foremost. And you just came out from Manny Diaz's media session. How did that go?
Yeah, football's right around the corner, Alex. Anytime we're all able to gather here in person and get to hear from the coaches, it's really exciting. Manny Diaz getting his first chance to be back at ACC Media Days, this time as a head coach for the Duke Blue Devils. It was really fun to hear him take the podium and talk about sort of the transition that this team has gone through. Obviously, Duke coming off of 2 really successful seasons under Mike Elko. Manny Diaz now takes over a locker room that knows what it takes to win. However, there was a good bit of turnover with players leaving the program, kind of following Mike Elko to Texas A&M, a quarterback competition coming up this fall. So a lot for us to unpack here today about Duke.
You know, I'm a big believer in coaches, learning from their travels and learning from their mistakes. And obviously, I cover Miami, and Diaz is not the most popular guy down in South Florida these days, but he did a good job as defensive coordinator at Miami. I thought he did a really good job at Penn State, at DC, obviously. And then I think sometimes you get that second opportunity to be a head coach. Do you get the sense that he's maybe learned from some of those previous mistakes and travels?
Absolutely. It sounds like he's definitely reflected a lot. I think earlier today he was speaking about his days as a coordinator, going all the way back to his introduction into coaching, his time at Florida State, learning from Bobby Bowden with Mark Richt as an offensive coordinator on those staffs and able to kind of bounce ideas, and then taking that with him to NC State, being around the league and being there for 6 seasons before ultimately ending up at a place like Mississippi State, Penn State, and his time at Miami, of course. At just 50 years old, Manny Diaz still looks great. By the way, I think he's really prepared and excited for this opportunity to be the head guy once again.
You talk a lot about roster turnover from last year, and of course, a big one was Riley Leonard, leaving and going to Notre Dame. What have been the vibes on Maalik Murphy and on the quarterback situation there?
Yeah, excited to get Maalik Murphy in the transfer portal. Grayson Loftus also here at ACC Kickoff. Manny Diaz not trying to fool anybody with who the quarterback is by bringing both of them. Duke's the only team this week that has done that. I like that gamesmanship that Coach Diaz is putting out there. But, yeah, Grayson Loftus played 5 games last year, but still you feel like there could be a little bit of a better player available, and that's exactly what Maalik Murphy was for this Duke football team. I think he ends up as the starting quarterback. His time at Texas was pretty impressive, filling in for Quinn Ewers last season. I think he's going to bring a lot to this Duke offense.
Yeah, and so other places of turnover, what are the biggest maybe concerns you have for Duke football this year?
Well, yeah, anytime you talk about a quarterback, you want to make sure that they're upright, Alex, right?
Yeah,
and so
sure.
Several players on the offensive line either transferred, graduated, or if you're somebody like Graham Barton, you're a first-round pick by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL draft. So that offensive line has had a good bit of turnover this offseason. It's a group that I think is going to have to come together rather quickly for the Duke football team. There are 4 non-conference games, and then the first ACC game of the season coming up in Week 5. It's Duke and North Carolina, the finest rivalry, the big test for Duke there. So it's an offensive line that's definitely going to need to stand tall to make that quarterback competition easier and to make a player like Maalik Murphy able to make those plays.
Have you had a chance have you made any win-loss predictions yet? I should say, have you gone through that? Have you put anything on record yet?
I haven't. I've kind of bounced back and forth with where I think this Duke team fits within the picture of the ACC. I understand that this Duke team surprised a lot of people last season with the start that they had, beating Clemson, a big start to the year, a big Notre Dame game, where Duke was a 4th and 16 stop away from being 5-0. If they get that stop, Riley Leonard doesn't go back out on the field, doesn't break his ankle, and he might still be playing for Duke had things gone that way. So when I look at this team and seeing all the turnover, I do think this Duke team's capable of making it to a bowl game, but I think their ceiling would be right there at that 7-8 win mark. When I look at them.
You mentioned Mike Elko just had a couple of successful seasons at Duke before stepping away. How much do you expect the systems to change now?
I think a good bit. I think when you think about what Manny Diaz was able to do in Miami and his experience in the ACC, I think that is certainly going to help what he's trying to bring here to the Blue Devils. I think you look at the staff that he's put together, much different build than what Mike Elko was able to do over the past couple of seasons. And then just looking at the offense as a whole, the guys that Duke's currently trying to recruit in future classes, seems like there's going to be a bit of a different kind of play style for this Duke football team.
How do you see the ACC playing out this year, JJ? Because this is one of those seasons where obviously Florida State has earned a lot of equity with how they've been the last couple of years defending ACC champs. People are kind of wondering, does Clemson take a bit more of a step back, or are they resurgent this year? People are wondering, can Miami actually play up to their talent level this year? How do you see the conference playing out?
I think those are the 3 teams to start with anytime you have that ACC conversation, right? I look at what Clemson had last season, some of the tough losses that they went through and just poor performances that they had to go back to that first game of the season that they had against Duke on a Labor Day. Who expects Duke at home to knock off Clemson? Yeah. And that kind of set the tone for the year that would be. I find it really hard to believe that a program like Clemson, with what Dabo Swinney has been able to do, can have consecutive seasons less than what the standard has been there. So I definitely think Clemson's going to be there in the hunt at the end. Florida State, like you said, going undefeated last year, being the ACC champs. And I don't know, man, I like your Hurricanes. Like you said, they got a lot of talent, especially at quarterback. How fun is that offense going to be able to watch for Miami? And without divisions, man, it just feels wide open for what the league could look like in terms of, okay, we're going to get down to tiebreakers to determine which teams end up in Charlotte for that conference championship game. So, yeah, I don't know that there's any team outside of those 3 that I would pick to win the league.
Yeah, a big topic this week, especially day one when the commissioner was here, Jim Phillips, and he spoke so passionately about all this realignment talk and about the legal disputes, which is how he referred to them with Florida State and Clemson. How concerned are you that, in a few years' time, there either won't be an ACC or it's going to be so different from what's constructed now?
At this point, I think you'd be foolish not to be concerned. Although I will say, Alex, I am one of the ACC truthers as a native North Carolinian, right? It only feels right that the ACC remains intact and that the schools that have been there for a really long time continue to be about a part of this conference. I have been really excited by the commissioners across every league so far this week, kind of talking about we're satisfied with where we're at and what that will look like in the future. So I think for now we've bought a little bit of time, but the concerns definitely still got to be out there. I know you and Kenton are talking about it a lot. You guys are who I go to on Locked On ACC to kind of hear the latest in those discussions and conversations. But change might be coming, just hopefully not too soon.
Yeah, and I think it's it's going to be a couple of years, I think. And Kenton and I have both been of the mind that Florida State and Clemson, they're going to get out. Like it's moving in that direction, but people seem to argue about how quickly it's going to move in that direction. We already know, it's been reported this week by Pete Thamel of ESPN that they're not going to make a formal declaration this summer, which would mean, I guess, the earliest they could join another conference would be the 2026 football season. So we've got at least 2 more football seasons of the ACC in its current form.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what happens after that is a conversation that I hope we can put off for a little while, right? I hope that once we get through talking season here in these few weeks, once we get into fall camp, we're able to focus a little bit more about the product on the field and what these teams are going to look like. Because I think college football is going to look different this year, right, than it has in years past. And I'm excited to really kind of dive into those nuances, man. Just thinking about some of the rule changes coming to the sport. How can you not be excited about what we could see?
Well, darn right. And I hope you guys are excited for Locked On Blue Devils as well, because JJ does a fantastic job, whether it's football season, basketball season, everything in between. He's got you covered on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you guys so much. And JJ, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Happy to be here.
Not an edge, but it lets you know that you know what to expect already, from team-wise, week in and week out-wise, player-wise, so for sure.
The ACC used to be home for you at Miami. How's it feel to be back in the conference?
It feels great. It feels great to be back in the conference. It feels great to be back playing against the teams that I've been so used to seeing on the schedule, the type of talent I'll see, and just being able to make plays against the type of talent again will be great.
What are some of the team goals for you guys heading into the year?
Team goals, I'll probably say is staying consistent, not beating ourselves. Last year, there was definitely games that we beat ourselves, and we can't have that this year. Playing the ACC week in and week out, every game's a big game. No game on our schedule is a cakewalk. So we definitely can't beat ourselves this year for sure.
Do you feel like you're ready for the step up in competition?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, for sure. I'm born ready.
I have a player survey that I'm doing. If you could steal a player off another roster, doesn't have to, obviously not on your team, but steal it off another roster, who would it be and why?
In college?
Yeah, in college. Put him on you guys.
It's tough. Let's think. Well, he's not. He just graduated, but I was gonna say James Williams or Cam Kitchen's one of those guys for sure. Having those guys, those guys were probably some of the most football, like those guys love ball. I'm talking about from being in the facility from 6 in the morning to 8 at night, just in the film room. Those guys really love ball for sure.
Who's the best ACC player out on your team on offense?
Let's go Donno Chaney. Yeah, let's go Donno Chaney.
Why?
Boy. He's a great player. Him healthy, people kind of forget about it, but man, Donno Chaney healthy, he's a really good player. He's 200 solid, 205 solid.
Yeah.
He can run, he can move. I'm excited to see what he does this year at Louisville for sure.
The best defensive player not on your team?
It has to be a D-lineman. Oh, let's go Ruben Bain.
Okay.
He's great, man. He's a young kid. Just being a freshman and having that type of impact, it's crazy. Man. People don't probably understand how hard it is, but the kid was 18, 19 years old making plays as if he was 25. So it was crazy for sure.
Best accomplishment in the gym?
This offseason, probably saying just being able to test good in all my weightlifting stuff. Hit 225 about 24, 25 times this year, and that was coming off of banged up shoulders. I jumped 30 inches on the vertical, so it was a good offseason for me for sure.
Best road environment that you're looking forward to?
This year, Louisville. Louisville would probably be a great environment. Last time I've been there, it was during COVID. It was my freshman year during COVID, so it wasn't the same. So for sure this year, it should be great.
What do you think is going to be the biggest adjustment those years?
Like I said earlier, just keeping your body intact, staying healthy, staying intact. Trying to, because every week is going to be a big game. Every week is going to be you're going to get banged up every game. So you got to make sure that after that first game, you're never going to feel 100%. So you got to stay in the training room. You got to get extra rehab for sure.
What's it like for you guys when you come here and kind of one of the big conversations is all these, or a few teams wanting to leave the ACC, right? As you guys are coming and so excited to join. Is that weird? And how do you kind of deal with all that noise?
We kind of, as players, try not to pay attention to it as much, but, it's definitely hard not to see, every time you open your phone, you see, like, a couple of teams trying to leave the conference and stuff like that. But, for me, it doesn't really affect me as much, this being my last year in college, but I'm definitely just grateful for the opportunity that we do get to play these teams in the ACC for sure.
Elijah, how much did play? I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just unrelated. I was just going to ask you if you got to play the video game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's a great game. Having all our teammates on there and just seeing all the guys who I actually know, actually practice with, play with, it's so crazy, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you played Boston College in the bowl last year, so you kind of got a taste of the ACC. How much does that kind of prepare you for what to expect, and what do you expect?
I would definitely say playing against them, it gives you a feel, especially like going back on film and just watching them, watching us, like it definitely gives you a feel. Even though we're a completely different team now than we were at the time, it definitely, it does. And then as far as me, just expecting, just like I said earlier, just week in and week out, it's going to be physical. It's going to be a physical game every week. Everybody's going to have, I want to say, a target on their back, but nobody wants to lose to the new guys in town. Like nobody wants to lose to the new guys on the block. So it's definitely, I definitely expect to see every team's best for sure.
And if I remember right, isn't Boston College on your schedule this year? So you get another shot at them when you get them home too. If I remember right.
Yes, sir. They come to us this time, not in Fenway Park with that field in the weather.
A neutral site.
Great, I appreciate it. Good luck this season.
When you made the transition from Miami to SMU, familiar faces over there with you, and of course Coach Lashley. Did that kind of ease that transition for you?
Oh yeah, that was honestly like the biggest reason. Like having coaches who who knew me, who even knew my family. Like, they knew my family already from being at Miami. So having those guys was just like it was a no-brainer, because like NIL is one thing, this like all the other stuff, the city's one thing, but like it's at the end of the day, I wanted to play and I wanted to be taken care of, and over here like I got in both, so for sure.
That's wonderful, man. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Watching DJ and all those guys, I remember watching Clemson's defense that year, been really good, but I didn't prepare the offense sadly that year.
Well, I was going to ask you because they still do some of the same stuff. West changed up a little bit than what Brent did, but when you watch Clemson, what's unique about their defense, and how do they challenge you? Because he was saying that was the most. You guys went in there blind with some things because you just really couldn't prepare as much for what they were going to bring.
From what I remember, obviously, getting prepared from this year. They just changed. They had a different blitz for every play almost, and that's something that's exciting. But you gotta be prepared as a quarterback for that. Every single game. So make sure you gotta know where your hot answers and where to get the ball.
When you face a defense like that, what's your how much does a quarterback look forward to it, other than the fact you're probably going to get hit a lot? But other than that, what is it that's good to play kind of defense like that for a quarterback?
I love playing teams that blitz. I think my favorite part of the game is protection. I think my favorite part of the game is knowing where blitzes are coming from and sliding guys or getting guys out so I have an answer. So I'm excited. I love bring the heat. It's kind of what it is. It's part of the game, and if you're not prepared for it, you're never succeed.
I know you guys had West Virginia this year's coming in. You got Clemson coming in. I remember the atmosphere when I was there that year. It was pretty big. It was like a Steelers game with the atmosphere, and they had the towels that passed out and all that to kind of get the fans more involved. Kind of excited to have those two games at home this year and what that atmosphere is going to be like.
Definitely. That's something I'm always looking forward to, having the fans there and having that support. At the end of the day, it's just another game, and we're going to try and win it. Obviously, Caden Klubnik, I played. Didn't get a chance to play him in high school. I'm excited to get to play him this year.
When Coach Bell came in, what was his message to you guys about? Okay, here's why we're going to do the spread. Here's why I think it's going to work for you guys. What was kind of his overriding message when he came in about why this offense will work for you guys?
Coach Bell came in, like I said, just set a standard, and so I knew that if we listened to him and did what he said, we were going to succeed, and that's something I've tried to instill in everyone on the team, and I think we're all on the same page that way.
Are guys instantly going on YouTube and look up at his old offense and kind of say, okay, that looks fun or that looks good?
Definitely. Watching his Western Carolina tape is really, really fun, and I think he does a lot of great things that are going to help us this year.
I know you mentioned in the other room learning from Kenny Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the lessons that you learned through the years just to help prepare you for finally getting the keys to the car and leading the offense?
The biggest thing for him was just leadership. Getting to watch how the guys around him responded to him and how much he commanded in the huddle and just from the team. It's extremely important to have someone that the team can rely on and can set the tone.
And what's Coach Bell brought that has helped you the most grow as a quarterback?
He's just been there every single day to push me. He's pushing me, making sure I'm playing the best I can. And I think for me, that's what I need. I need someone that's making sure that I'm playing at my best. And I think he'd bring that to the table, and I think that's going to really help me succeed this year.
How much will your offense look different to your fans as opposed to what you were running last year?
I would say very different, almost unrecognizable. So yeah, a big change, which is I'm excited about. I think that's what we needed.
Kind of safe to call it a spread, I guess, or you have a different name for it?
I would say spread. Yeah, we'll be out wide. We'll be good. Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
Pittsburgh is a town known for its rough run the football mentality, play defense. City's kind of excited, do you think, maybe to see this wide open, spread it out, up-tempo offense?
I think the city's excited to see a team win. I don't think they care how they do it, and so if we're out spread, we're in tight, I think they just want to see us score points and win football games.
What do your team goals look like for this year?
Team goals to win football games. That's every 1 week at a time, and we'll take care of business. That's definitely our goal.
What are some parts of your game you feel like you've worked on and improved through spring to now?
For me, it's just been owning this offense, making sure it's second nature to me. Learn a whole new offense takes time, and so as a quarterback, sometimes it's hard to implement these concepts. And I think for me, it was just making sure I relied on the guys around me and just did what Coach asked.
A lot of talent on that offense. Talk to us about your weapons and highlight some of the guys on your O.
We got a ton of weapons. I'm really excited about it. Receiver-wise, we got 2 new guys from Western. Really excited about them, CJ and Pop, and then obviously Tay and Kenny from last year. Excellent receivers. Tay's always open. Kenny's always open. They're gonna do great things. The running back room. We got Rod, DC, Derek Davis, and now we brought Desmond Reed just to add that to him. So the skill players we're totally fine on, and we're gonna have guys running free everywhere if we do Coach Bell's offense, and then O-line's kicking. Obviously we got Gavin over there in tight end room, so plenty of weapons this year.
A lot of offensive starters back from last year. Does the new offense negate that, or is that's still a huge plus for you guys? I think it's a big plus for us. We got a lot of vets, especially in the O-line. Now we got some guys that are coming back and have played, and I think that's really exciting. They have a good mesh up there and a great relationship, and I think it's going to take them a long way. As far as the offense goes, these older guys, they easily take in this new offense and are able to learn it and apply it fast. So really excited about it. Was it hard for you to learn or no?
Not really, no. Coach Bell made it easy, hammer away at it, every single day, and so didn't take too long for me to get comfortable with it.
Winning only 3 games last year, as you look back on last year, what do you kind of point to? Okay, if we do this better or that better, I think we can turn things around in a winning season.
For me, it's just taking the lessons from last year and making sure that I'm just trying to implement whatever Coach Bell wants. He's bringing in the new offense, and now it's my job to run it efficiently and make sure that we score points. So for me, it's really just making sure I do my job and listen to Coach Bell.
Kenton, it's been an eventful week out here at ACC Kickoff in Charlotte, and they're like this close to kicking me out of here. They've been breaking down Radio Row down here. I'm getting like dirty looks from the people, like hurry it up. So I'm going to be stepping aside pretty soon. But we learned a lot of things this week, Kenton, including the ACC commissioner is not going to stop fighting with all these disputes, the legal disputes with Florida State and Clemson. He's not going to roll over for this.
He was a real milquetoast guy, in my opinion, up until this here ACC Media Days. This is the most impassioned I've ever seen him. This is the most fired up I've ever seen him, and I'm excited about it. You know what I mean? And there is so much that as a conference there is to still fight for. There is to remain. Like I keep talking about, this is not about who likes who, or this is not about who wants to be friends with who. This is about survival. This is about numbers. This is about, at the end of the day, is my bottom line going to say red, I'm in the red or I'm in the black? And that's what we have going on right now. And Jim Phillips' willingness to fight, to be vocal, is going to be very important as to whether or not the ACC is in the net negative or net positive at the end of this thing.
Well, we still coming out of these media days. We'll have a lot to digest throughout the next couple of weeks on Locked On ACC, including fall practice is starting. Now, Florida State, they've already started theirs, and Georgia Tech, because they play week 0 or week -1, whatever it is, out in Ireland. So they've already started practicing. All the other teams in the conference are going to starting practice within the next week. So we'll have a lot to talk about. Make sure you tune in again next time on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.